Hello, beautiful bookish people. My name is Hannah, and today I'm joined with a very special guest, Sarah.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
You ready for the applause effect?
Yes.
Yep, that's me.
And today we are going to be talking about Jenny Slate's Little Weirds. So, Little Weirds is not what I was expecting.
Really?
Yes, because I think I love comedian memoirs, like Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, and all that stuff. That I was expecting kind of the same thing, and like comedian memoirs are like usually like, oh, remember that time I met Bill Hader at the back of SNL, and like comedic essays, versus like this is very like vignette style.
Yes.
Of writing. How do you think like you would like best describe it?
I have noticed that like when I talk about it, I don't say anything about it. I'm just like, this book is good. So I don't know that I've ever tried to describe it, but I would definitely say like vignettes. I think it's just like glimpses into Jenny Slate's mind.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. Like she's a weird person, and the vignettes are all like, a lot of them are really weird.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
So I think it's just like very intimate glimpses into her like inner psyche.
Yeah, I feel the best way I could describe it is like a modern Virginia Woolf.
Okay, yeah.
Modern like Mrs. Dalloway, just like stream of conscious. It does kind of feel like she's speaking to like a part of your like identity that you never wanted to show light on before.
Yep.
Is that like part of the appeal, you think? Like that drew it to you, like drew this book to you?
Yes, 100%. Julia from Shakespeare and Such read it and then like messaged me and was like, you're gonna love this book, and I was like, okay, I'll take your word for it, and then read it and was like, how dare Julia know me this intimately? Because it very much is like, I'm realizing that like I've never had an original thought in my life. Like
I realized that when I downloaded TikTok. I was like,
I was just gonna say, do you get the TikTok and you're like, wait, other people think that? Yes. So I'm like realizing like, oh, this isn't just a me thing. This isn't just a like, I'm such a like tortured, like lonely soul. No, I'm just a woman. Like I'm just a person, and we all feel this way. And that's very much it. Is like, so there are so many lines that I was like, I swear that's right out of my brain. Like, Jenny, how did you take that? Yep.
Yeah, because like I remember you saying that like in your videos of like, oh, you felt like Jenny had like read your mind and just like wrote it down. But I also feel like, do you think like, I have a theory of like favorite books, because like this is one of your favorite books, is like intrinsically like personal. Do you think like that's also an aspect of like why you consider it a favorite, because it like speaks to something so personal to you?
Yeah, 100%. I'm just thinking like, yeah, like if I look at my favorite books, it's my childhood favorite book, which is about the Knights of the Round Table and depression, which were like two things that were like very intrinsic to like my elementary school years.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rifka Brunt, which is about like family relationships and the AIDS epidemic.
Okay,
and it just like ripped my heart out. And like all three of those very much like, when I think books that make me feel something, like it's those three, because like they pull at the heart and like hit something inside, as opposed to just like, oh, that was nicely written, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense, because like when you analyze your favorites, like I have the same thing, but there are like certain favorites where I'm like, I have no idea like why it is, like why.
That's fair, yeah. Like what?
Like Rebecca by Daphne.
Okay.
I'm like, I have no idea why you are a 5-star favorite. I just know it like hits on it on a deeper level, but we haven't fully analyzed it. You're like, yeah. Like what was like your favorite story, or like was there ever like a favorite story at the beginning where you're like, oh, this is gonna be my favorite?
Yeah, basically like I started reading it and I was like, oh, like the first chapter, what did you say she called them?
Vignettes or like pieces?
Pieces. The first piece, she says like, when people see me, I want them to feel like it's a good omen.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, oh, Okay, we're in for a ride here, because wow, if that's not like, if I haven't written a million poems about like the way I want to be perceived, right?
Oh,
So then like reading that, I'm like, oh, okay, other people get it.
we were talking about before this, where it was like sometimes they like really hit hard.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's like, I don't know what you're saying, Jenny, but like you got this. Do you think you have to have like a personal connection, or like gain your own nuances, or put your own nuances into it to like fully like appreciate it? It's kind of like poetry in that sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that definitely helps. Like I think that definitely is the reason why I love it so much. I think if I didn't have that, like, I'm gonna look so deep into myself and pull something out of this, if I just read it and was like, this is a beautiful piece of work, I don't know that I would have connected with it as
Yeah.
much. Like I know that Sage just read it and listened to the audiobook, and in their wrap up, I haven't like talked to them like in depth about it, but they were like, oh, it's so tender, and that was kind of like all they said. And I was like, okay, so like clearly like we're getting different things out of it.
Yeah.
I do think that the ones where she talks about dying, like those pieces where she's like, I died and this weird thing happened and then my body did this, I don't understand entirely, other than the one about mansplaining. Like I get that one, obviously.
That's funny that you mentioned that one, because I saw it as like a cohesive story.
Oh, interesting. Like the three of them.
There's like five like I died
Okay.
pieces. So the first one is like I died on Valentine's Day, and it's like being sad that you're alone on Valentine's Day. And then the second one is like I died listening, like mansplaining, which is like kind of like more nuanced into the psyche of like being in the world alone. And then
Mhm.
it's like I died the sad songs of my vagina, and it's just about being a woman and your clothes falling off, like being very
Yep.
bare in like the misogynistic world. And
Mhm.
then the fourth is I died in sardines, which is like finally finding a love, like making a sandwich for the love of your life.
Mhm.
And then the third, or the fifth, excuse me, is like I died a bronze tree, which is basically like losing the love of your life. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's right. That's a good point. I hadn't thought of it as like one narrative.
That's just how I perceived it.
Yeah, I think you've perceived correctly.
The thing is, this is all about interpretation. I feel with like
Totally.
little weirds, especially because like there were some metaphors for me. I was like, okay, I get it.
Yep.
I feel like I had one marked. Hold on, let me try to find it. It was like, my vagina started singing only the sad songs from the jukebox in my childhood home, a jukebox that I would listen to as a young girl and imagine falling in love. And a jukebox as big as a refrigerator. It was big. Loved seeing too big, like an elephant, that you could have if you were good. But then, like, literally on the next page, I was like, okay, but then you got me back with a better metaphor.
I think it's like, I feel like she knows,
Mm-hmm.
like she's like, here's my super poetic, super beautiful metaphor that's gonna make you gasp, and here's a super quirky girl metaphor that's gonna make you go, what? Because I think she is very, look, I love Jenny Slate
Mm-hmm.
and I love this book, but it is very much like, I'm so quirky, like Debbie Ryan hair talk, which I like very much identify with. So like I get it, but I also know that this is like, to some people, like pretentious as hell. Because
Oh,
like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
here's a white woman talking about how hard it is to be a woman,
Mm-hmm.
which I hadn't picked up on the first time I read it. I read it in such a like, I feel like haze. Now that I've reread it and like listened to it and read along, like there were chapters where I was like, mm,
Was it like the Code of Hammurabi, like, chapter?
yes. I'm like, okay, Jenny, like I get it, but like also, come on, this feels very white feminism-y,
Mm-hmm.
some of these chapters, but then also I know that this is like a personal piece.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is Jenny Slate's thoughts, so I don't necessarily want to like diminish that, but also like it is pretentious, and I will admit that I love me a good pretentious narrative. So
No, listen, you have Jenny, I can have my Donna Tartt. It's
yes.
it's all good. Totally understand. It makes you feel like a little smarter,
Yeah.
all that stuff. But
Yeah.
the one thing like I feel like I felt seen by is like there's like towards the beginning, Jenny's like, I view my life in metaphors, and I was like, stop. How dare you like think of life in a symbolic way like I do?
I will say, I think that this book speaks to artsy people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
100%, like, ex-theater kid. Like, I went to theater school. Like, this is high school in a book for me. Like, this is everyone that I went to high school with. This is how I acted in high school. Like, perceive me, but don't perceive me. And also, like, everything's a metaphor, and like, I'm gonna act like I'm in an indie film, but like, I hate my life. Yeah, I think it speaks to people who are like super happy to romanticize their lives.
Yeah. Like one of my notes, and like this speaks to like the romanticized creative person the most.
Yes, 100%. What the chapter when she's talking about, like, I'm in this house, when she talks about like the house she lives in now, and she's like, you used to live here, we used to be together, but you don't live here with me, and that's okay. And I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna pick lemons from my yard, and I'm gonna bring them in my sweater and use my sweater as a bowl and show them to my dog. Like, that whole chapter is just about romanticizing your life. So I think, like, if you are that person who's like, I'm gonna wake up today and I'm gonna romanticize every single thing I do, this is the book for you.
But now that you brought up like the house, do you think we can talk about like the ghost stories?
Yes.
Because like that 100% had to be my favorite part. Like in Little Weirds and her like documentary. Like,
yeah,
the fact that she was like, if you didn't tell me like there was ghosts in the house, I would be a completely different person. Woo!
Yes, that's so interesting. Like, the idea that she's like, if I hadn't grown up in a haunted house, I would not be who I am.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Changed my entire outlook on life.
Yes. Okay, wait, this is like not really, well, it's on topic, but it's not about the book. Have you ever had like a ghost experience?
Okay. So I live in the attic of like my house. It's like redone and like furbished, but like there's a door that doesn't close. And every time I like try to close it, a weird ambient sound comes out of it. And so I'm like, it's fine. I think it might be like just like, there's a ghost there, and it just wants to like come into my room and be friendly. So I just like leave the door open because he just wants to come in all the time, which is fine because I think he's friendly. But like I cannot close the door, otherwise it just like freaks me out, and it won't like allow me to close the door.
That is wild.
Yeah. I don't even think it's an experience. It's just like a feeling. And like ghost stories like give purpose to like the seemingly purposeless, you know what I mean? Not to get like into it.
Please.
But like ghost stories like typically commonly talk about like the underlying fear of society or like someone else's fear. You know what I mean?
So
like,
what are your thoughts then on the ghosts of Jenny's house? Do you have thoughts about these people?
I don't know if there's like an underlying fear. It was so interesting to see like the dad like having no reaction towards it versus like Jenny was like, this is gonna terrify me for the rest of my life. I think it maybe speaks to different anxieties. That was like the only thing I saw for like underlying anxieties or fears, but it was still cool.
The sea captain, I can't imagine like tearing up your stairs and finding like love letters based in infidelity, and you don't know who these people are.
Right? And they burned
amazing. I know. I'm like, no, yes, okay, yes, you maybe are then letting him go free, but no, keep them, like,
scrapbook it.
The friend, let him stay in scrapbook it. Give him the scrapbook.
But my last question is like, do you feel like Little Weirds helped you acknowledge any like part of you? Because like Little Weirds is definitely like Jenny Slate's own version of like discovery of self-love. But do you think like by reading it like helped you in any sort of way?
That's a good question. Like I said, I recognize that like the thoughts I have and like the feelings about myself are not original and like are not like only my thoughts. So I feel like I've had a lot of these like thoughts, especially like I said, like through high school, like through my Tumblr days, through being an angsty theater kid, being like no one understands me, and then like reading the fact that there's this person out there who we have nothing in common other than the fact that we are both white women, like feeling the same things that I do. It's kind of like grounding. Like I feel like when I read this, I read it in, like when I reread it this last week, I read it in one day and I was like, I feel more grounded right now than I have in the last like month or so.
Wow.
Yeah, like I feel like it's just something that I can come back to and be like it's while it's like, man, I've never had an original thought in my life, it's also like you're not alone in these thoughts, and like the idea of wanting to be loved and wanting to be perceived and like wanting to be appreciated, like everyone gets that, and like it's okay, you'll find it. Because like it's so nice seeing that Jenny's like, I'm happy in my house with my dog and my lemon tree, and like I don't need someone else to tell me that I'm whole.
Yeah, 100%. Because like, do you think that's like the common goal of like reading, is to like feel seen? Because it's like, oh, if Jane Eyre has been feeling this way, I guess I'm fine too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like I think we do. I think not like we read to like live other people's stories, but I think we also do read to be like, okay, so I'm not crazy. Like my thoughts are valid. Like this is, I feel seen in this. Oh, totally. We don't just read to learn about other people. We read to learn about ourselves. Yeah, totally.
Wow, that was poetry.
What can I say? What a book.
But yeah, thank you for like letting me talk to you about it.
Of course.
And I feel like I have more knowledge about the book and you as a person and an individual.
Thank you. I feel like I have more knowledge about you and also ghosts, and I'm very excited.
But on that note, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Keep reading and all that. Do you think so? Therefore. Furthermore.
Flexing my academic brain a little bit.
But I think that. Oop! I got an email. Sorry. I've kind of like scrambled through like my 10 questions, but we've gotten.
Apologies.
No. That's the way of conversation. Yep. Jenny Slate. Amazing. Iconic.
Amazing.